Hello. Today's episode is a conversation with Phoenix Knight and James Nanez of the band Audio Sex Drive. They are an Austin-based band with roots based in math rock, prog, shoegaze, noise punk, and thrash even. And we get into a really cool conversation about their process of writing music, how they learned music, their relationship between production, electronics, pedals, and also how they relate to the world as artists with respect to politics and religion. Also, they will be playing a show on September 28th at Spider House in Austin. So if you are in the Austin area on that day, it's a Tuesday, go check them out because they are awesome. And before we get to our conversation, please remember to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you would like to consider supporting my content generally, please visit my Patreon page. And remember, for patrons of $1 a month only, you can submit special questions or topic requests for me to cover on the Music in Mind podcast to ask to guests or to address myself. Welcome to Music in Mind, with Anthony Calkin. All right, well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Music in Mind. I am here with Phoenix Knight and James Nanez, and they are part of the Austin band Audio Sex Drive. Phoenix is a killer guitar player. I've been checking out his videos and music, and James Nanez is a producer for the band and beat maker and musician himself. So welcome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Go ahead. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So, how's it going? How's it going this morning?
Well, me and James we were doing music all night last night, you know.
Cool.
two nights in a row.
Yeah,
it was fucking awesome, man. That's what's really cool is that just seeing the two worlds, but we just been chilling. I'll let James talk about the rest on his side.
Right now, like we got some songs that we've been working on, and we're trying to get those songs drawn out and completed. And right now we're like kind of working on the sound design for songs.
Okay.
And I feel like once you get into sound design, that takes a minute.
Oh yeah.
Sound choice is very important, especially like fully recorded tracks. So that's kind of what we've been doing. I've been like working on like synth patches for the songs, and Phoenix has been, helping me like learn the songs on the piano a bit. We're just coming up, so we're just getting ready for like a full takeover, basically. We're getting ready.
Are you doing a full album? Because it looks like on Spotify you have the single, you have I Try, right?
So we've been doing a lot of thinking about it. So a lot of people tend to see things and only see the negatives and try to change that. And that's a lot. And I'm not saying that that's wrong of them. Sometimes change is needed. Right. But there's also an easier way of just possibly accepting that as an outcome and changing other things around it. So we're like trying to figure out new ways of marketing, because right now the industry is in a state of questioning.
Yep.
and needing to change for either for COVID's sake or even for music's sake. So it's a really good time to really figure out, all right, this is the shit that's happening. Mm-hmm. How can we make it benefit us, even though right now it's totally ass? So
can you expand on what you're saying? It sounds like you're pointing at something somewhat specific.
Yeah. So like, for example, we're not per se going to do an album, but we're going to do a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
Because, people expect, when a band comes out, they're going to have this, X, Y, and Z. Now is the time that you can actually create your own X, Y, and Z and possibly switch it and make it more beneficial for you than the old system. And so I think that people are so lost in COVID right now. They're trying so hard to get back to that system that worked really well for in the 80s, and so so we're trying to figure that out right now, and that's what's really awesome. And what I told the boys before is that I love business and I love music, so it's not like we're selling out to do that. It's just that we have an X product. Instead of selling out to be Y, we're trying to figure out how to attract Y to X.
Uh-huh.
you know. And so that the album will encompass it, and we're not going to talk too much of it, sadly, but just that's kind of like the main idea, the genesis of how we're going to probably go about the next few EPs, albums in the next
Okay.
6 months to a year. That's kind of that idea that really brought up that new mainframe that we've created with the help of James and everyone in Audio Sex Drive, which I'm really grateful for.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Are you involved in the crypto world, like NFT space or anything like that?
Let you go, James.
I'm not. I'm interested in it, but
Okay.
you know, yeah, haven't really delved into that yet.
That looks like a different world. I know me and
yeah.
James are talking about. We're like, what the hell? We might, but honestly, I feel like crypto is like legal gambling, and that's nothing wrong. I feel like that's a bad place for me mentally.
Interesting.
So,
I see.
Yeah, I
Okay.
respect what it's there for, and we might dive into it. And James has really helped a lot because he's really into that type, like at least understanding that type of stuff. But we'll see how that goes. We'll take it by
We'll see.
here.
It's true. Nobody really knows how it's going to go. I think what's interesting about it, what's important, is kind of like what you were saying about needing to find new paths for success. It seems like there's a lot of interest just with all of the systems of crypto that can be used for artistic production, and things like smart contracts, like Ethereum is built so that you can have the metadata of the file itself traced back to you. And so I think it's an exciting space.
It's like wiring a pedal board.
A lot of people are, they're not really seeing that part of NFTs. There's like this whole focus on NFTs are great for art. Like there's a lot about that, but I know that there's some worries about like climate,
yeah.
stuff, and that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say give it a couple more years.
Yeah. Cool. So, James, I'm interested in the production role with Audio Sex Drive. It seems like the two of you collaborate pretty intimately a lot. I kind of have I have a question that I'm always trying to figure out is what is a producer?
A producer, I mean, like here, I'll be real. Like I've been producing since middle school. I've been making beats since middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like today, like if you want to make it as a producer, you have to produce, you have to mix, you have to be like an audio engineer,
Right.
You have to probably do like vocal mixing, there's a lot more to it. A producer's everything, honestly.
Yeah, I've kind of got to that place. I sort of think of it, if I liken it to classical music, that a producer is related to an orchestrator. Figuring out how to make music come alive with an ensemble, or figuring out what the ensemble you need is, and how to create the harp part from the original piano score or something like that.
Yeah, if I could add on something on that, I do see James as an incredible composer. So that's one thing I like. No matter what happens, it is undoubtable, and it's going to be really cool to have that more prominent in the next few EPs and stuff. It's really interesting because at least my philosophy when I started this and when James came onto it is that, the foundation of the song is way more important. I agreed with Tim Hansen on that. He's kind of tired of all the guitar BS, like too much like guitar showing offness, in a sense. I mean, I'm subject to doing that, and it is really fun sometimes, but I do it with I try to have a rhythmic thing with it so someone can attach onto it. I feel like playing rhythm is way harder than lead than most people think, and so that really ties into the foundation really showing. Like I love a prominent drum and bass, so James being, instead of like how bass and drums and even the guitar is just one fraction of the song, that James could be the whole fraction, and that just be just a bigger piece that we build on too. So it's really interesting to manipulate with the roles of musician and producer and then intertwine them and make something different. Yeah,
I like what you're saying there a lot about the playing rhythm with the guitar, it kind of reminded me of two things. It reminded me of Victor Wooten talking about when you're doing a bass solo.
Yeah.
If you lose the groove, you've lost everything.
Yep.
So
Very
the groove is paramount. That has to be there all the time. And it also makes me think of what a guitar is. And I think a guitar is actually at its core, the heart of the guitar is accompaniment.
Yeah.
Guitar is a rhythm instrument that gets too big for its britches sometimes and tries to be the leader.
Yeah, that is very true. And, I think that's what plagued the Austin scene of blues. I am very tired of really good blues guitars and really shitty ones. But utilizing the bass and drummer as a loop machine.
Yes.
I would never do that to James or anyone. I don't want James to, hey, just play this key for like 5 songs, just one key, and James is going to be up there having a miserable time. I would too. But to that point, I do agree that guitar was made for accompaniment. But that's what's cool about music. Like, it's wrong to play bass with a pick, but people still do it.
Yeah.
Like I approach guitar like Ableton. Actually, this is my Ableton, and this is what I'm very comfortable with. And it helped me understand beat production and what James does, and really admire it too. Yeah. And what I used to tell my students is that because I wanted to be a drummer first, and you can hear that is that if you try to emulate a different instrument on your instrument, you can never do it, but you're going to find this really cool common ground. So I sound like a rhythmic and melodic drum fills, and that's was because I tried to breach into the drum world, and next I came out, well, I can't hit a snare on the G string. I can just hit an E, and then there you go, it sounds like a tuned snare or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in your guys' relationship to beat production, actually, because some of your videos have really, really cool beats, but then the I Try on Spotify, that has a live drummer on it, right? But is it synth bass on the Spotify?
So that song I wrote, I have this thing of writing songs on GarageBand with my AirPods.
Nice.
So that guitar tone was, I borrowed a SG from Gibson, and I recorded it with my AirPods. And the idea was to emulate Keith Richards, make it more modern, the idea of playing with the cassette and then recording that cassette for that natural distortion that it does. And
that's the guitar sound.
That's his guitar sound in some songs, like Can't Get No Satisfaction. That's why it sounds really like borderline fuzz, but not. And I was like, man, fuck it. So I went to do it, and it had this high overtone where it sounds like a cymbal, and it sounded fucking awesome. And I like the simplicity of GarageBand, just like being limited and just not having too much things to focus on except just how to do this. So I Try was all made on even the vocals were recorded with AirPods. It was all made on was it GarageBand, AirPods, and the sounds on it, except the bass and the guitar were through the AirPods or DI.
I see. Cool.
Yeah. And that was that one is 808 synth bass heavy on that one. Yeah. Very, very based on the Gorillaz and doing a lot like British punk stuff.
Yeah. It's really got that really saturated groove. It's sweet.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And then James how mix and get all that stuff down, and shout out to Look North Recording for mastering it. He did a great job helping us out with that too.
Sweet. Cool. So actually, I'm interested in your relationship to noise and distortion generally. It's something that with rock and roll and guitar and then metal and all this stuff, it's weird because I come out of metal and then I went into classical music and then did a lot of free jazz and crazy stuff, which has all this noise and distortion, but it's coming from a very different place than I think the rock world. But I think recently they've kind of started meeting in this interesting way where noise and distortion can in and of itself be the source of so much energy.
Oh yeah, very much so. I'm going to say this quick comment, let James go on it, but I realized that I have like the transmitter pedal, and some people complain that like they can't hear what I'm doing, and so I just answer back, that's maybe what I'm trying to do, you know. In tune chaos, that's why I love volume swells and shoegaze, but mixing that with noise punk is making that chaos match the song and the feeling, and that in itself I think requires more restraint than just doing absolute chaos.
Right.
And so that's what I've been trying to do.
Distortion is my favorite thing too, like especially on synths. If you get like a synthesizer and put tons of effects on it, it's gonna change the whole sound of it. And I know that with Phoenix, like usually he'll bring his pedal board and he has crazy stuff on it. Crazy sounds come from that board, and it's recording that. It kind of opens up like a new, like, okay, we can take these sounds like really far. In terms of that stuff. Definitely the shoegaze influence too. Like, yeah, Phoenix put me on the shoegaze because I was never really into any shoegaze, but you show me shoegaze and I love it. So.
And you show me like the trap version of shoegaze, which is awesome. It like they all have their own little worlds and respect them. Like that's why I started saying I don't hate musicians. Well, I hate like just a few, but like if I don't like their music, it's just not for me. And so why does my opinion matter if I hate them? It's just, I respect that they're out there because like there's the good and evil and yin and yang. You need the opposite. And sadly, sometimes you need the opposite extreme, and you're just glad it's there. You don't have to take part in it. Just let people do them and enjoy it. So, but yeah, we plugged in the data corruptor and to do some stuff. I've tamed it, and it's going to be a new cool addition to the board.
Cool.
I love pedals.
Yeah. Would you call yourself a gearhead?
Yeah, very much.
It's interesting with guitar players. There's kind of I resisted the gear thing for a long time, and then I kind of had to get into it through gigging.
Yeah. For
like pit orchestras and musical theater and stuff, because you have to have everything potentially.
Yeah.
It has to sound really good, but.
Well, come by South Austin Music, man. That's where I work, and I hope help people put together pedal boards and stuff. Sweet. It's really fun to help like preview someone's sound and also be a main part of creating it. So like for example, like I said, I don't like some genres, but doesn't mean I hate them. Like if some guy says I want to sound like John Mayer, like it's not my thing, but I know how to sound like him, and we get like a really cool tone.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's awesome. I was a part of it. Now I can just step out and just have it like a little nugget in my head later on. It's like, those two combinations that sound great. And, I can talk about gear with anyone and really help them out. That job is really influential on Audio Sex Drive too, actually.
Your job at South Austin Music.
Oh, yeah, very much. It is, I love everything that they've done for me. It is like a family over there, and he's helped out with my music career, and since we're non-commissioned too there, like when I hang out with people, I have a different idea on gear, and I really can tell someone, hey, this thing is $60 and you can save about $300, just get this instead. And you develop like relationships and actually know your gear instead of like what gear is the most expensive that you can sell easily. There's a little bit of that sometimes, but that's not like very prominent in my head. And, the idea of like sharing and creating a space like that for Audio Sex Drive was really based and had influence on, me and James's relationship before this, and how, thank God, Billy runs the shop so well, focusing on people's strengths, not preying on his weaknesses. And, that shop is just really special to me and like home and old Austin. So it's awesome.
Cool. So how did Audio Sex Drive get started? And is there a way you describe the project, the band, what it is or where it's going or anything like that?
Yeah. Audio Sex Drive came from like playing guitar. Like 6 months in, I started my first band. I tried joining bands and never worked. I've always actually just been leading the band, the main writer on it. And there's times where, musicians just grow up, especially at that age. I was playing at 13, so like some kids wanted to be a lawyer, or they were yeah, like I mean they wanted things, but I knew since then I wanted to be a guitarist.
Right.
All those people who were lying to me, not on purpose, or probably didn't know themselves, they really drew me back.
Right.
And so that's why after a couple like bands with band drama that was outside of my realm, and that really affected me personally, and I was like, I don't deserve this. Not like they're bad or anything. It's just, guys in drama. I realized I wanted to have a band that I can pull from anyone that I like. Granted, James is actually going to be, someone I would love to have like his stamp on Audio Sex Drive as long as, he wants. For the other members, I'm really happy for Jack Nelson and Finn on drums, doing a lot of cool stuff. But we actually already talked. It's like, if I wanted to do a more EDM based album, and Finn is like, hey, that's not my domain, it's all good. He leaves, but he's going to start his own project, and we're going to play on bills together. And so instead of like, fuck you, man, get out of here, you're not open-minded at all, it's like, no, let's get a drummer that loves EDM then, for that album. Focus on their strength, and then maybe come back later. And so establishing that kind of culture. So Audio Sex Drive came from all the flaws that I found in bands, and a lot of bands in Austin, they're really good at one genre, and it's really hard to find people like James that can do anything or try to at least try to find something. And so that's why this new system is accounting for that failure in Austin, and accounting for all the troubles. So if it does arise, it's just part of the system, and just relax and let it go, instead of like, stressing out, or like, some of that drama did take a huge mental toll on me, because it did attack my character, and I was just chilling. Right. So I don't want to do that. I just want to be around a group of friends that no matter what happens, if we don't agree on the music, we're going to be there like a brotherhood.
It brings up a lot of issues about collaboration and what the purpose of a band is, and what the purpose of making music in groups of people is. Because one thing I found, because I was in LA before I just recently came to Austin.
Oh shit. Hold on real quick. With my headphones. There you go. I can hear you. Sorry. You were in LA?
Yeah. I was in LA before I just recently moved to Austin. And
welcome to Austin, by the way. Hope it's treating you nice.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's beautiful. Honestly, it's like the prettiest city I've ever been in my life. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's closer to that than LA. Like the wooded neighborhoods. It's so pretty, man. The houses here are so nice. But yeah, they're also like millions of dollars. But if only I had millions of dollars. But anyway, what I've noticed is I feel like the key time to start a band, or to start getting into bands, is when you're learning in middle school and in high school. And what I did, I kind of like fucked myself over by going to music school for classical music, because all this time that I should have been out playing bands, making connections, I was like practicing classical guitar and doing those kinds of concerts. And so when I was gigging professionally in LA, I was trying to start a band, but the problem is when you're 30 and all the musicians around you are really good, they need to get paid. Yeah. So it's very hard to start a collaborative relationship, because they have bills too. And it makes sense that they need to get paid. Like, I want to pay them if I can. But also, if you're hiring people in as hired guns, they also don't have the buy-in to the project.
Yeah.
Like, they'll do a good job, but they don't have the creative, emotional attachment to it.
Yeah. And, that's definitely an issue going on. And that's what's cool is that this is, honestly, Audio Sex Drive came from the philosophy that I started blending life and music together. And Audio Sex Drive, the name, which will tie into what you're talking about, the difference between hired gun and these fine gentlemen I have playing with me, is that basically Audio Sex Drive, the idea is I have a high sex drive for audio, as in that, I want to basically, quote unquote, get close with all aspects of the genre, because the second closest way I can get close to someone is music. The first is honestly sex. And I'm not like trying to go around and like, let's do it. No, it's just like musically I can do that with people. And it's people are not threatened by it, and they can take time to understand you or understand what you're trying to say. And that's what's really awesome about music in this time of really fast times. It can help you slow down. So yeah, like I see, like me and James are already close. He's a great person, and musically, it's awesome to get close to that. And so, in this day and age of like, what is toxic masculinity, what is not, it's really cool to have that aspect of music at getting close that is kind of adjacent to sex, but not sexual at all. It kind of gets the feeling of it, so I can get close to him and not like, you know, it's like, what's going on, man? It's just all good vibes, and we learn from ourselves. Like I tell people when I try them out, you know, it's like right on the fly. It's just like, just let me know what you're feeling on. If I can feel it, then that's all I need. So kind of tapping into that side per se, the benefits of sexual intercourse, but without all the hardships and that weirdness that surrounds it. And that's why music, in my opinion, is more appealing to do that. So the hire gun aspect, it's like hire guns are like prostitutes, as in they're getting paid to do a job, and that's totally fine. But these are like fuck buddies, you know, like that we're really close, that after we do it, like we just smoke a little bit. It's like, so how's your day? You know, like, and it's just really chill. And we go home after that and we just do it again. Nice. And we can still tap in to that closeness. And this band and this lineup is probably one of the best I ever witnessed and played with in my world. Not saying that like it beats like Van Halen or anything, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, like, you know, this is my introduction to live music. I was not doing live music. I've just been making beats in my bedroom.
Oh wow.
You know, so meeting Phoenix and him, you know, bringing him with me, bringing me with him, you know, it helped me grow a lot. Like definitely, I've seen. My production has increased tenfold in just a year, honestly.
Wow.
The band, being in a live setting, you know, and him teaching me stuff, you know, it's good to be a student sometimes, you know, like you have to be, especially in music, you know, you can't always be teaching. You gotta learn. You gotta learn stuff.
Yeah, and likewise for you, James. So I love learning from you and what you can do. Help my production a shit ton.
James, I'm interested in your relationship, because like what Phoenix was just saying about the connection between sexual connection and musical connection. I think with sex and music, they're both very sensual, like of the senses, right? And it's like exciting the senses in different ways, with touch or with sound or with your imagination. And it's this kind of weird connection. I have a phrase that I always think, music is magic and musicians are sorcerers.
I love that.
I kind of it's like I'm not a religious person at all, but it's the only sort of like mystical thing I get into. And when I'm on stage, I think like I have to cast a spell right now on these people.
If I could interject real quick with one thing, I don't think it has to be magic, because I mean, rock and roll, it was slang for sex, you know, and so they did a lot of the initial genesis of it was from sex, and it was not like this random theory I pulled out, you know. And so like if you actually were aware of it and you listen to back on there, you see like kind of that swing, and I just took that. I was like, all right, now let's do it crazy. So add that little magic right there too.
Yeah. So. But with the electronic side, with the production side of it, how do you get into that the sensual space? How do you find a way of tapping into that? Because it feels like it's easy for it to be really removed working on a computer, like almost data entry.
You have a good point. I mean, like, you know, I try to incorporate a lot of like right now, like synths are my main thing, you know, so like pad and nice sounding keys. I mean, I definitely feel like with sound design, you can get intimate with it.
Oh yeah.
you know, especially with like when you're like working on the synth patches and all that stuff too, you know, you can, to me, that as a producer, like that's what I enjoy doing because that's like physical, you know, like
Yep.
pushing knobs and stuff, and you know, getting like that sound that you have in your head, but like getting it out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. And then, I mean, like I'm trying to learn piano, like I am. I don't really play an instrument. Like
Right.
I was my instrument, you know. Like I'm just
Right.
saying.
Well, that's an instrument. That's
I mean,
legit,
yeah,
man.
it's like what I've been using forever. So I mean, you know, it's interesting having Phoenix come in, us making tracks, him laying down guitar, me throwing a synth on it, you know, and then I might do like percussion, like I might have drums on it, but we do have a drummer. But I do like program my own drums too.
Nice.
You know, so, yeah, I mean, like making electronic music, you know, I feel like that's a whole nother world that, you know, it's still yet to be opened up. There's all these like VSTs coming out and all these like plugins that can do amazing stuff.
Yeah. So
that,
much.
you know, people haven't even like touched the surface with most of them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I love electronic production.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mainly grew up producing hip hop and sampling a lot of stuff and like sampling like old soul songs like J.
Cool.
Madlib. Flying Lotus is one of my biggest.
Cool. That's great.
So a lot of, you know, and like Flying Lotus has like the wacky kind of production, the out there production, and then, you know, that's the stuff I like. I like the crazy stuff, you know, I like the crazy sounds and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think it's a way. I think those crazy sounds, the distortion, glitch sounds, things like that, they bring that visceral element that allow you to feel the music very intensely, and so it brings that tactile, the sensual nature into it. I think also for production and beat making, it's interesting because for guitar, there's a history of hundreds of years now of technique and pedagogy and teaching and things like that, and the tracks for how to learn how to be a producer, I think, are not set very well. And there's books and there's YouTube videos and stuff, but it's kind of mishmash, like hodgepodge.
yeah, I mean, like I learned almost everything from YouTube.
Uh-huh.
I was always on YouTube growing up and looking at tutorials and like if I didn't know how to do something, I just look it up.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, if anyone wants to get in producing, like if someone were to be like, "Hey James, I want to start producing today. What should I do?" I would tell them, you know, just don't even do tutorials. Just mess around.
Yeah.
You know, mess with your DAW and just see what you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that you want to achieve, look it up. But like, just have fun. You know, don't like stress yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that play, the improvisation, figuring out how to improvise electronically is super important. Phoenix, how do you feel about improvisation in terms of guitar? Since, you know, guitar has such a history of improv.
I fucking love it. It's when you're on the spot, there's only the option of being genuine. You know, I mean, there's still like a chance, but that's for the most part. Like, I am a big fan of math rock and Jason Richardson and all those really prog players, but I saw them do a jam, and I was like, man, I can outplay you. This is weird, you know. I mean, of course, when you sit down, he's just shredding like crazy, but he had a hard time like getting on the spot, and I don't like that too extreme. Like for me, I don't like being so mathematical and relying on that sitting down aspect. I kind of want it just be flowing, you know?
Right.
I think he was learning to play, and he even says his songs are hard to play. And I don't like that in a way for me. I want to make it easier. So my whole kind of thing lately, when I got into math rock and was before into jamming, was trying to make math rock stuff on the fly and do all that stuff. And so setting up the fretboard like a roadmap cheats, so I don't have to think. I already practiced the theory, so I can zone out, but not. And then when I need to, I come back. I love that very much. Jamming is great. It's just stress-free, and you really try things outside your domain, especially when you add other elements, because you're like, oh, okay, I can't do this because I got to take account of that. So let's try something. Like I started playing left-handed bass upside down as a right
Oh,
piano, and
cool.
you play different things. Like being out of my element is
Hmm.
kind of where my element is now.
Great.
So
I love that so
yeah,
much.
I
There's a
appreciate
story.
it.
I don't remember what I can't remember the jazz pianist. He did a whole concert on saxophone. He doesn't play saxophone at all.
Damn. Okay, he has balls. I'll be like, no, this is a free concert. I'm probably going to be shit.
No, his whole point was if you've practiced music enough, you should be able to make music with your body. So if you're a pianist, there's things you can do if you know how to do piano. But even if it's an instrument you don't know how to do, you should be able to connect musically through it.
Yeah, very much so. Like, it's definitely with guitar helped me learn piano and other things,
Right.
like really easily. I'm a very lazy prog player, I'll admit. you know, it's just like, oh, can you play major seventh? I'm like, just give me a minute, I'll figure it out. Like that's
That's very guitar
my,
player of you.
yeah, I tried not to, and I've been getting better at it. But my ear is my main thing, and like
Hmm.
I did jazz stuff because Randy Rhoads. I love how Randy Rhoads was very disciplined
Uh-huh.
and anti the rock stereotype of he's not a partier, but
Right.
very disciplined and love the craft. And you can't take that away from it. On top of it, he's not someone that you make fun of for it as a nerd.
Right.
And that's what I thought was cool. He was punk, but disciplined, a rebel with a cause, and that's kind of what I want to do.
It's
So I did
interesting.
try to get into music theory. Like music theory wise, I can tell you the scales and all that. There's things I'm lacking on, but
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be like regular guitarists where they're like, yeah, fuck it. I'm just like, no, I want to do it over time where it's easy and not where I hate the guitar slowly.
Uh-huh.
You know, so I'm going at
Yeah.
a slower rate, but I really want to get over that.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting question, and it's something I struggle with my students, specifically guitar students, where they say, "Why do I need to know this? Why do I need to know how to read music? Why do I need to know what rhythms are, or how to name them, or chords, or scales, or anything?" And I don't know. I go back and forth with the question because obviously there's amazing guitar players out there who didn't really know much of that stuff, or sort of knew it instinctively but didn't have names for it.
Yeah,
And then
that's how
there's
the Beatles
also
were.
right,
very much.
and then there's also guitar players that just know it really really well, and there's really good players on both. So I guess the answer is like if you are not being limited and your ear is carrying you where you want to go, then I guess that's all you need.
Yeah, I guess I started saying, "What's the fun of conquering one world when you can conquer multiple?"
Mhm.
So why do I have to stay in this state? Maybe in a couple years, I just like, fuck it, let me be a classical guitarist. I want to try it, and that's what's really cool about music too. It's just like it's never really too late, and I can also like fraction out things I want to try to another time. It's not like, ooh, classical guitar is my main thing because I
Yeah.
did try to get into it, but like, I can just like enjoy this guitar, and then when I feel like it's time to change, it's really lax and slow, and I can enjoy that just as much. Like really savoring the new nuances and changes in my life that affect my music world,
Uh-huh.
and from there, I can slow it down, really exploit it by creating a lot of different stuff from it, and really sucking the juice out of it until it's time to move on.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So I don't look down on anyone for what they do. I just know what works best for me, and I appreciate and respect those on the extreme and on the opposite side.
Uh-huh. So kind of building off the theory side of things, what would you say your compositional process is? Would you say it's really intuitive?
I've started playing guitar to sound like a singer,
Okay.
and so it's basically the full accompaniment, building on a rhythmic thing that's just the right amount of flashy where I like it, where I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be pretty sick. And then I start adding some melodies, and that's what's really cool about having James and everyone else around is that, definitely the guitar, I like to think I'm very advanced on it, and their simplistic approach to some other things, because this prog stuff is definitely new. they help balance me out because I don't want to be too prog sometimes, you know? So it's not like they're like, oh, they don't get prog at all. It's just like, no, they're a good like testing point of like, yeah, you're being too much, man. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna keep it simple, you know? And so I can have like, that's what's really cool, is that kind of tricking people into playing something that sounds easy, but it's really not. And that's kind of my new niche a little bit of trying to do. And that's what the help with them. They're like, you know, helping it come down to be more cohesive. And also with by them doing that, it helps them add stuff to it easier. You know, because of course prog is very hard. So the more hard and weird it is out there, it's going to make everyone else's harder. So I kind of also have to listen to them. And I like it anyway to go down a little more simplified. That's just a good thing for me to be aware about, and has benefited me a lot since.
Yeah. How do you feel about the idea of music seeming hard, and when it's appropriate and when it isn't? It's something I think about in terms of the quote, the casting the spell. Because if you listen to like a John Coltrane solo where he's like reaching and he can barely play it and he's struggling, that's like amazing, because you're like, is he going to get through it? And then he does, and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And part of the spell that's cast is that he's struggling, whether he is or he isn't. That's the spell that's being cast. And so the audience is on their seat waiting to see if it's going to happen, versus like the craziest shredding sweep picker who's like asleep while he's going. There's no tension in that. It's so smooth, which it's supposed to be smooth. But that's like, people are blown away because the technique is crazy, but they're not like, oh, is this gonna work?
Yeah, that's kind of where I think you touched on a great point. But like, people are blown away by the technique, not by what they're trying to say with the music. Right. And granted, it might just be for technical show, and that's in its own place. And that's, we all have done it. You know, I'm starting to stray away from that too. You know, I'm not trying, because Metallica had something cool. I'm a diehard first two albums, Megadeth and Metallica fan. And I hated the Black Album, but I have new respect for it, because they're saying that, like, you know, we're never going to be the fastest again or the most angriest. Let's just make something that we like to do. And you can actually I started picking up on it. It's like very laid back, but it's still them. And I listened to the album again. I really appreciate it. That's what I've been trying to do a lot. Is hate me, love me, but do you feel me? And so I'm trying to do that and be kind of like the Jesus Christ of Tim Henson from Philadelphia, you know, where Tim Henson is godlike. And, you know, me and my dad talked about it. He's like, you know, you try like be like Tim Henson, clean up a bit. And it's like, I really don't want to put that effort to being that good, because I see it as very tedious and not fun. Right. I respect what he did but I have my own niche, and I really love it, and I feel like it can go hand to hand. I can go toe to toe with most prog musicians in my own right, but I respect what they do. And the Jesus Christ aspect is be more human, and as in like take account of the mistakes of it. I like having, you know, the mistakes, the nuances of it, but also not use that as a crutch to not keep going. You know, you got to keep on going. Also realize that some mistakes are really cool and just keep it there, but never stop progressing. So,
yeah, 5 seconds, like the improvisation. Like, you improvise, you can make something really cool. You know, like a lot of music is just made by mistake, honestly. I know for you make older sounds. I mean,
I was made by mistake. But,
but yeah, I mean, like, you know, like a lot of the hip hop producers, just they're like, oh, I made that by mistake. There's drums. I just was messing around and made it sound like that. So, yeah, improvisation is the best.
It's when you feel like you're playing. It's that play state versus performing. Like when performance is play, I feel like that's when it makes it easier to connect.
Yep.
And it's interesting because in Spanish and some other languages, playing music is a different word than playing a game. but in English it's the same word, and I think that that's actually right. I think that playing music is playing like a kid.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's when you usually tap in the most, is when you're really unprepared, and you're kind of that childlike state of being, naive but curious,
Yeah.
where you want to get out of that state. And sadly, we've reached that limit where you're like, oh shit, we're not kids anymore. But that music helps kind of get back into that.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting point, and that's something I'm definitely going to be thinking about. I like that.
So Phoenix, I noticed that you post on Facebook in ways that are fearless. I love it.
Yeah. Fuck it, let's talk about it.
yeah. Let's do it. I'm impressed, and actually, I think it matches your music. I think that there's an honesty to music that is tapping into how you're actually feeling, and even you discussing music as being related to sex. There's an honesty and a bravery at facing what you're feeling. And I think it seems like you're doing that on social media too, which is very impressive to me.
There's a lot of things that are pissing me off, and I used to get mad at people who says you're talking too much but no solution. And I kind of switch and understand now that I feel like these topics have not had topics talked about in order to get to that solution. Right. I think there's still, so that's someone for me who doesn't know anything except that, I'm very religious, but not the religious that's like, I hate gays and black people. I've debated preachers on this, but I've decided there's a few things I will defend. Friends, like, that are family to me, actual family, God, and my music. Like when people try to spread disinformation about God, I talk to them, and I tell them, like, hey, don't argue like I'm a normal Christian. I've totally debated against Christians that were totally heinous, and it totally goes against the religion, but people, when you disagree, they automatically think you're something, and in this day and age it's something worse. Like, I've been stripped of my race, I've been stripped of all my stuff because I don't agree, and it's really dehumanizing. I've experienced more racism from white leftists.
Yeah, I bet.
Because I know that they're trying, and I've always appreciated them. Like, that's why all my criticisms, like, Democrats are at least doing something, Republicans are just sitting down. And I don't like any of them. Nothing. I'm just everyone's biggest critic because I'm not going to praise them. They're not in a position of power, because we're all corrupted humans. We're capable of good and evil, which I really love that quote that you said.
Oh, the Solzhenitsyn one runs down the human heart.
Yeah, I really love that one. And so that's I guess that's what makes me a little different, is that when people like Billie Eilish, which I totally despise now, I love her music, is more targeting her personality, is that arguably Black Lives Matter, I totally agree with it. And I'm glad that she's spreading awareness. But when she made those comments about Asian people, it just came across like she didn't care. She only did a 24-hour apology, and also just had the Black Lives Matter tag still up there, like, to be always visible. But for Asian people, it doesn't matter. And some people might see that as like, so you're anti-Black Lives Matter. No, I appreciate what they do. But don't act like you're for equality when it's Asians' turn to get fucked up. You're not there, and Black Lives Matter asks for other allies, and that's fine, and that's cool. And it's there's so much shit. Like, I'm not trying to really get into that. I just appreciate everyone's respected group, but just don't lie to me and say that you're for equality. I'm even fine if you say you're just for one cause. That's cool. Just don't lie. And that's my whole thing. Like Billie Eilish coming across when she's attacking someone like that, she knows best. I try not to have that. I'm just questioning. I know I'm just as capable as evil and good as you, but let's just talk and be honest. Yeah. So that's it's like my music. It's just be honest. Like, fuck the blowback. So James say, fuck the blowback. Yeah, and it's really funny. Like, I had this girl like stripped me of my race because I said I believe, again, this is like being the smartest kid in special ed class. Like I think Trump did more for minorities than Joe Biden, and that's by a small fucking margin. And I'm not going to go out there with my Trump hat. I don't have one. And like, yeah, Trump did it. It's like, no, I fucking hate both of them.
Yeah,
But if we're going to get to numbers, we'll talk numbers.
Yeah, it's a tricky little thing there.
Yeah, of course, she like stripped me of my race and shit. And next you know, unadds me. 2 months later, adds me back. And it's like, you want to show. I was like, hasn't apologized or anything for it. But we haven't done that show for other reasons. But it's just really interesting kind of the idea. Like I've actually had more white people tell me, white leftists, and that's very niche because they say that white people are evil. Yeah. But they are doing what they say other white people do to me.
Right. They're obsessed with their own power.
Yeah. Very much so.
They define themselves as being the powerful ones, and then they must be the ones to do everything because they've defined themselves as powerful.
Very much so. And that's fine, I guess. And I don't always have to interact with it. And they're not going to be like, I'll say this. I am more scared of a right-wing extremist than a left-leaning, but the left-leaning are more prominent. Like the right-leaning guy, he's like, yeah, we're going to take over the Capitol. I got bazookas and shit. It's like, dude, what the fuck? You know, he's just a mini military. Yeah. The leftist guy is going to be like, I'm just going to call you a C word because you don't agree with policy. You know, I'm like, yeah, that's whatever, but don't act like you're cool.
Right. So I don't know if you know Bridget Phetasy,
I've heard that name, but I don't.
She's like a writer in the heterodox space, so not really a political side, but she always describes herself as politically homeless. Yeah. Would you say that's something you connect with at all?
Yeah, and I think James will relate to this too because we're both mixed. You know, I think that's also why we have this idea of pulling from different places because we had to, and we could never really fully belong in one spot. You know, I was too Asian for the white kids. I was too white and Hispanic for the Asian kids, you know, and that's fine. But that also resonate with politics, you know, because you know, I pulled some of the conservative ideas I like, the liberal ideas, the socialist, the capitalist ideas, and made it into my own unique thing. And I know it's very niche. That's why I don't force it on people. Right. I will talk to people about it. But then that's why I don't understand the idea of you have to be, if you're going to be right leaning, you have to be anti-abortion, I'm like, no, I'm anti everyone right now. I don't want to be put in a box, you know? And so I'll let James speak on his experiences like that if he wants to.
I mean, I'm honestly like, I'm right there with Phoenix. I'm just going to say though, like, I try to avoid most news. You know, I just like,
good for you.
It's just kind of, I got my own shit, you know, I got emotion, like the world kind of sucks right now. But, yeah, you know, got the homies, got Phoenix, you know, but yeah, like, I don't really pick a side, you know. It's, to me, it's just I'm confused. I'll say like I'm confused, you know, like politically homeless and confused, I guess. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It really shouldn't be our responsibility to be confused. Like we should have been, if CNN and Fox, this goes for both of them, if they were truly honest, we wouldn't feel such a necessity to look at other things, and that in itself is so much work. You know, yeah. And I think people are like, it's your responsibility to vote, but like you're also negating the responsibility to be informed. And on top of it, now you got to watch 3 or 4 or 5 news. Dude, one story you had to read for like 5 hours. Yeah, you know.
No, it's true. It's an impossible idea. I would say this is the primary problem with the democratic system. Is it requires you to be informed to an impossible degree. Because if you're really the things that affect you the most is like city council elections and local elections and things like that. And that requires all of its own research, which is actually in some ways the hardest to do because it's not as publicized. And then all the way up to like a presidential election or something where everything you're getting from CNN and Fox is so curated, it's impossible to have any idea what's going on, what will happen, like what's going to happen if you vote for this person. You've no idea. You can listen to what they say, and they're probably bullshitting you.
Exactly, man. And that's one of the downfalls of capitalism. I think all of the levies of protection for it are, infiltrated. So capitalism right now is really just a playground for those on top. Because if you were trying to corrupt the system, you would try to go for president, but you got to governor. So you got all your mayor friends corrupted. And then from there, no one can touch you from the bottom. You have like a state or two that you can do. You're free reign. And then they keep building up. That's why I don't think this is the time for socialism, because if you want to like democratic socialism, which is like try and incorporate capitalism is driven by money, good or bad. Right. So you're going to incorporate socialism, which gives 5 people all the power, and people before them got swayed by what? Money. Right. And you got Stalin, Mao, all those people. Oh my God. Yep. Like people who say that they're proud communists to me. And I'm like, my grandfather died in Vietnam, like fight off communists. I get that they're trying to do good, but like this is not the time for socialism. It's not the time for anything. It's just really, we have, like one of my favorite quotes is that we've been so interested in changing the world. It's time for us to stop and just interpret it. Just see where we're at, And so that's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm not supporting anyone. I think we just need a breather.
I love it, man.
Yeah, reassess awesome. Real quick. So
cool. Well, you want to play something? I think that was a good point. It was a good moment. Do you want to try playing after all that?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me. You're in C sharp, you said.
Who would like to start it off?
I can lay something down and then you can play over it if you want.
Sí. That was tight, man. I love the banjo harmonics.
Yeah, that was fun. That was crazy. So I never know what it's gonna sound like until I edit it because the delay is all different.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's always insane, but it's cool.
It's a good amount of chaos, man. We're like, if we fuck up, like last night, we're like, fuck it, it'll be funny. Like, you know?
Yeah, no, it's
It'll be all
great.
good fun.
There's no fucking up. It's free improv. It's anything goes, man.
Exactly. It's just jazz.
Yeah, right. Cool. Well, so what's coming up next for you guys?
So we're gonna do stuff with our buddy Jinx Unknown, a really cool rapper. I recommend you guys should check out. He's wanting us to do some the band backing him up. You know, we'll get more details on that later on. Nonetheless, he's a really cool guy. You should check out. Also, Anatomy of Sound, our pick company. One of the best picks I ever played, if not the best.
Wow.
We are doing stuff like merchandise with him and getting ready to go to NAMM for Gibson, Anatomy of Sound, and some of our other sponsors and stuff.
Sweet.
So that's really exciting. Planning on at least an EP before December, maybe two.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, and then from there, we're just going to release music whenever we feel like it. And got a lot of cool things under the wraps that we're really excited to show. It's just still in processing phase and going from there, you know, making the best of these times of COVID. And not letting that be an excuse for us to fail, yet the thing that makes us succeed. So
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks, James Nanez and Phoenix Knight. Their group is Audio Sex Drive. Check them out. They're awesome. I'm excited about the music coming out. 2 EPs sounds amazing.
I appreciate, man. I really appreciate your time on this. It's been a really fun time for me.
Thank you for my first podcast, Anthony.
Yeah,
Pop the cherry, man.
it was so much fun. All right. Their links are all below. Check them out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right. Thanks for listening or watching. That was Phoenix Knight and James Nanez of the Austin band Audio Sex Drive. Remember to check them out on September 28th at Spider House in Austin. And remember to leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you would like to consider supporting my content generally, please visit my Patreon page. Thanks. Bye.